Test, test.
Six o'clock, convene the regular city council meeting, Clear Lake City Hall Council Chambers, 14050 Olympic Drive, Clear Lake, California. August 19 at 6 p.m. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Claffey,
Here.
Councilmember Kramer,
Here.
Councilmember Overton,
Here.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Here.
and Mayor Sutton.
Here. All right, well, pledge of allegiance. Vice Mayor Purdock, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing. I would like to kind of have a moment of silence to think about the survivors of the cache fire that happened yesterday and last night. All right, thank you. All right, we'll go to the adoption of the agenda, but I want to move that to add an emergency item to tonight's agenda. It's the resolution of the City Council of the City of Clear Lake ratifying the existence of a local emergency as proclaimed by the Director of Emergency Services and request the Governor to proclaim the state of emergency for the City of Clear Lake due to the cache fire. Can I have a second, please?
A second.
I have a motion by Mayor Slutin and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. Have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Claffey,
All right.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Aye.
and Mayor Sutton.
Aye. I move that we address this as our first item on the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda?
Other than we're not going to have a report from animal control tonight or any adopted plans.
Okay, thank you. City Manager Flora, would you address this resolution
Yes, thank you.
and put it, excuse me,
Do we want to approve the agenda?
do we want to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted with the adjustments mentioned.
And I'll second that.
A motion by Vice Mayor Purdock and a second by Councilman Kramer. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll suggest that we take this resolution 2021-44 as the first item before the presentations. City Manager Flora.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So as you're aware, the cache fire broke out in the city yesterday afternoon. And after it started near 6th Street and Cache Street in Clear Lake. And, after a fierce fight, most of the fire was contained into the evening hours. Still a lot of spot fires and whatnot today, but we have a little over 80 acres were scorched, and we lost a total of 137 homes,
Oh my God.
or 137 structures, including 56 homes and 158 vehicles. And we can go into more detail on this in discussion if you would like, but due to the severity of this, the number of homes lost, in my authority as a director of emergency services for the city, I declared a local emergency last night about 9 p.m. And so the city council, as you know, has 7 days to ratify that declaration, and you can do that through the resolution that's before you tonight. So with that, that's my brief introduction, and we can address any questions that you have about related to the proclamation or the fire.
Any questions from council to Vice Mayor Purdock?
Mr. Flora, I was curious, in past fires where we've had something like the Mendocino Complex, or the evening we had the Sulphur Fire along with Napa and Sonoma counties, FEMA was involved and they incorporated all those fires into one. I'm wondering if they would consider that with Dixie and the other fires currently burning in California to bring federal dollars to help us aid those victims.
Well, that's a great question. At this point, that's not looking likely, but we are, asking if that's possible. At this point, there really haven't been any state resources that have been freed up in support of this fire, but we are, I guess, lobbying actively for that. We do have a call tomorrow with both our senator and assembly member about just that. And so we don't know. I know both of our supervisors that represent Clearlake have said that in the forums that they're engaged in, they're going to try to make that very argument that maybe could be added into larger complex, and we could access additional, perhaps federal and state resources for recovery efforts.
Great answer. Thank you, Mr. Flora.
Councilman Kramer, any questions?
I have no questions. I understand the proclamation perfectly.
Okay, Councilwoman Overton? Councilwoman? All right, we open it up for public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public on this item, either here or on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, if there's none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a resolution or make a motion to approve resolution number 2021-44, read by title only. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake ratifying the existence of a local emergency as proclaimed by the Director of Emergency Services and requesting the governor to proclaim a state of emergency for the City of Clearlake due to the Cache Fire.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer. We have a second by Councilwoman Overton. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda. We don't have the presentation of August adoptable dogs, and we'll go to number 2 of presentations, was the proclamation declaring August 31st, 2021 as International Overdose Awareness Day. Let me read the proclamation. Whereas International Overdose Awareness Day is recognized globally on August 31st to raise awareness about the risk of overdosing, honor the individuals whose lives have been lost from overdosing, and the knowledge, the grief felt by families, friends, and communities. And whereas International Overdose Awareness Day aims to publicly challenge the stigma associated with substance use disorder and overdosing. And whereas in 2019, over 6,000 Californians died from a drug overdose, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas every person deserves our best effort to prevent injury and death from overdose. And it is imperative to support overdose prevention policies and projects to help make sure everyone understands overdose is a social issue which impacts the victim, families, friends, and communities. The Clearlake City Council and Lake County Behavioral Health Services and Lake County Health Services urge all residents, parents, public and private organizations, hospitals, schools, and colleges in Lake County to support efforts that will increase community awareness, understanding, and action to address drug overdose. Now, therefore, the Clearlake City Council joined with the Lake County Behavioral Health Services and Lake County Health Services Department, and do hereby proclaim Tuesday, August 31st, 2021, as International Overdose Awareness Day, signed by me this date, August 19, 2021. I believe there's one person on Zoom that wished to acknowledge this, and we could send this proclamation to. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, Kim Tangerman with Lake County Public Health is on the Zoom. And they've asked for us to have a presentation, a recording, but I'll let Ms. Tangerman speak.
I thank you so much for acknowledging this this day of August 31st. We have a video for you guys to watch. If you guys were able to play that.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Bob Gardner. I appreciate you allowing me to do some public relations work for addicts and alcoholics. My credentials, I've been a California physician for 47 years. I've lived and worked in Lake County for the past 22. Over the years, I've been medical director of many of the social model and medical model programs in Marin, Sonoma County, Mendocino County, and Lake County. So I've been able to follow substance abuse issues in our county for the last 47 years, because that's where people would end up. Currently, I run the substance abuse program at Adventist Health over in Lucerne, and we get a lot of the referrals from the 2 emergency rooms. I'm also medical director of Hilltop Recovery, which is the only residential program in town. My mission today is to help our community leaders see the suffering human being when they look and talk about addicts and alcoholics. Addictions is an equal opportunity disease. It's just not in our lower socioeconomic groups. I've seen people in Marin, Beverly Hills, where they put Mercedes convertibles and thriving businesses in their nose and in their veins. It's a disease that affects almost every family in our county. Every family has an uncle or a child or somebody who's an addict or an alcoholic. So it's not just the ones who have the disease, it's everybody around them, including neighbors. This is something that's out there. It affects just about every family. I've treated a lot of the families of the community leaders over the past 47 years. So it's something that people may not want to talk about, and there's not a strong voting bloc, but each community leader represents the recovering addict and really all their family. The biochemistry of addiction is related to the neurotransmitter dopamine. And this is a neurotransmitter that is essentially in charge of motivation. It helps you get up, it helps you find food, it helps you reproduce, it helps you get place to live. If your dopamine is low, you can't get out of bed, you have no motivation, you just feel blah. That's a medical term. So what happens when people use, most of the drugs are going to elevate dopamine. Things like methamphetamines can raise dopamine levels 20 times normal. So you could see the attraction there. What happens though, on subsequent uses, that dopamine level it keeps going up, but nowhere near where it went up the time before. So it might be 90%, 80% of where it was the first time. Eventually, a person gets down where it may be 10, 20% below normal. So unless they use to get that dopamine back up, they're sick, they're exhausted. And this is where the craziness starts. This decreased dopamine level is when a using addict will rob our house, take our TV set, go crazy, and be hustling in an emergency room. This is where they'll sell their mother's jewelry, because they're not necessarily trying to get high. They describe it as getting well, and it corresponds with their dopamine. So emergency room and doctors' offices often see this desperate behavior from the dopamine lack. This lack makes people feel there's no way out. And this is why some of the craziness happens. But I think it's important to realize they're biochemically sick and they deserve help. Each addict you see is somebody's kid. It could be somebody's parent, brother, sibling, neighbor. You know, think it through. It could be us. It could be, it's a disease that affects all varieties of people. Sometimes we have genetic predispositions. So some family, instead of running high in heart disease or high blood pressure, they have a large component of family members that have addiction and alcoholism. Sometimes people, like some of our veterans or people who get in accidents, are started on pain medicines by doctors, and that gets their addictions going. Some drugs are so powerful that you use it a few times and then you're addicted. The good news about substance abuse and addictions is that people can recover. They can become doctors, lawyers, counselors, and even politicians. So I think that as politicians, it's good to remember that there's a large silent voting bloc that you represent, and they deserve respect and caring. I think as we treat addictions better and better, our health dollars will go further. And I think the human suffering will decrease. I was on an economic group 20 years ago for Lake County. One of the biggest things was the concern about drug addiction, and it kept some businesses out of the area. So I think by recognizing the problem, giving it courtesy, we're going to help our community in a lot of ways. When people come to my office, I do the doctor things. I listen, I poke them, I draw blood, I order medications. But I think the most important thing I do is let these people know that I see them as a person, that I respect and care about them, and they can keep coming back until they're better, that there's hope, and that we are concerned about them. For those who have drifted off, these are the closing statements. My request is that you, our elected officials, understand the biochemistry behind the changes in these people that we call addicts, and that we see the human being in the suffering addict, and we treat them with love and respect. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Kim. Powerful presentation.
Thank you. I just have one more closing statement, if it's okay. I really want to give a big thanks to Dr. Bob Gardner for his willingness to make this video, as well as his expertise and compassion. He sets the bar high for all of us. I also wanted to let you know that on August 31st at Library Park, in collaboration with Public Health, Tribal Health, Behavioral Health, and other agencies tabling there, we're going to have an event, an international overdose awareness event. We're going to be seeking to reduce stigma around substance use, prepare community members in case of emergency with the Narcan training, and then also kids. And we'll be honoring the lives of the loved ones who have passed due to overdose. So I encourage everyone to come out. I'd like to give a shout out to the SafeRx crew who diligently have gotten the Narcan training and the Narcan kits out there. And I also want to sing praises to the Leave It Behind program. I think it's working wonders. So I appreciate you all and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for your presentation. All right, we'll go to item public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is with the subject jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concerns may be referred to staff or placed on the next available agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item, and comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any from the public here that wants to make some comments? If not, anybody on Zoom wants to make a comment? Madam Clerk, anybody?
There are
here?
no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Then we go to the consent agenda. Any of the council wants to pull an item? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent item?
So moved to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Overton and a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. All in favor? Say
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we should have allowed public comment on the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry. Any comic wants to pull an item on that? Madam Clerk? I went too fast. Sorry.
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
So we close that and the motion still counts. Okay, very good. We'll go to item number 8, new business. Item number 8 is consideration of approval of a purchase and sale agreements for approximately 11.28 acres of property located at 6885 and 7110 Old Highway 53, Clearlake, from the Bourbon Housing and Development Corporation. Mr. City Manager Flora.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So we have a fair amount of detail in the staff report. I won't go through all of it, but I will say that, as you know, the city's been intending to develop this property as a retail center for a couple of years now. And this particular property was initially part of what the city purchased from the county, and then was sold and developed as a water park, as you know. And through a series of events that ended up in ownership in 2017 by Burbank Housing Development. So they're an affordable housing developer out of Santa Rosa. And they do basically only Sonoma County projects. And so I contacted them at one point, just kind of trying to see what their intention was of the property. They had no interest really in doing any project up here. And so discussions led to the ability for the city to purchase this property for $1 million for the 11 acres. I think if you look at this property and the overall opportunity, particularly in combining it with the existing approximately 28 acres that the city has, it really provides a lot more opportunity for a large, high quality development. And with the level of interest that we've been able to attract at this point, we feel confident that we'll be able to develop this entire area. And so, we're recommending that the city go ahead and move forward with the purchase of this property. And with that, I've just tried to address any questions that the council or public may have.
Okay, we have any questions from the council?
No, sir.
No? All right, we're opening up the public hearing. Any from the public here wants to make a comment on this item? If not, anybody on Zoom wants to comment on this item?
There are no hands raised on the Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
All right, then we'll close the public hearing. Can I entertain a motion or discussion on this item? Make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 11.28 acres located at 68, 85, and 7110 Old Highway 53 for development as a retail center.
Okay, we have, go ahead. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Claffey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 9. Consideration of resolution approving an application for the CDBG CV home key funding for rehabilitation work at the Hope Center. City Manager Flora. I don't know if you want or not. That's it.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just recuse myself because I do work in conjunction with Hope Center.
Okay. Okay. Wait till he steps out. So, Mr. Mayor and council members, as you're aware, the Hope Center here in Clearlake, which is established in the last year, opened at the end of last year, has been a key to providing services to the homeless community, both in the city and in larger Lake County. In addition to, there were a variety of funds used to get that center up and going, some of which came through CDBG home key funds. That was a result of the funds made available by the state for the COVID pandemic. And so they were awarded grant funds that were able to complete the construction and get that center open. There's a few additional items that they're hoping to accomplish there. And so there's an additional round of that pot of funds that wasn't expended that they have access to. And so this is primarily done through Adventist Health and Hope Rising. Now neither of them are eligible for CDBG funds. It has to be a government agency. The first time the County of Lake was the sponsor of that program, and at some point they didn't express an interest in this second round of funding, being a partner on that. And so they came to the city and they said that we'd be happy to help sort of facilitate this. So what you have before you is a resolution approving their application for funding and then allowing me to execute a grant agreement related to that. Now, a few things I want to point out. They're asking for $1 million. And this would cover a number of things. What they're primarily focusing on is creating essentially like a microgrid project there with generator backup and solar and batteries, so that the center is pretty much entirely resilient. And then the first part of the project didn't include curb, gutter, and sidewalk improvements, which are a requirement of the city for this type of project. And so this would cover installing those public improvements as well as some street lighting at the site. Now, Hope Rising and Adventist Health is handling pretty much all of the background work on this. We're basically acting as a pass-through. That was one thing that I shared with them is, as you know, we have quite a lot of CDBG grants that we're working through right now, and we just don't really have the staff capacity to handle this one. So anyway, with that, that's kind of the overview, and the application is due by the end of this month, and try to address any questions that the council has about this.
Okay, we have any questions from the council? Councilwoman Overton.
Just one. So are they going to be handling financially reporting this to the, are they going to give us information? We have to report it.
Yeah, I think we're still going to be responsible. They have contracted with some type of CDBG consultant, kind of like we do for our project. So I think city staff will just have to review the reports and then submit them. So, yeah,
I just want to make sure that we're not going to be getting too much into this.
definitely understand the concern.
Councilman Kramer, any questions? No?
No.
Councilman Claffey? All right. If not, we'll open it up for a public hearing. Anybody from the public wants to comment on this item, either here or on Zoom? Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, then we'll bring it back to the council and entertain a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we approve the application for funding for additional improvements at the Hope Center from the Community Development Block Grant, Coronavirus Response, CDBG-CV program.
We have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilman Claffey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Last item. Madam Clerk, could you see if Councilman, Vice Mayor Purdock is around to get him back in?
I texted him, but
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll go to item number 10 on the agenda. I believe it's an item for our city clerk, Melissa Swanson. Melissa, please.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and council members. At the annual League of California Cities Conference, attendees will hold a business meeting where the proposed resolutions are voted on to determine the League of California Cities stance on certain issues in the upcoming year. These are policy resolutions on issues of statewide importance and are of broad municipal interest. This year's General Assembly and business meeting will be held during the annual conference on Friday, September 24th. The City Council appointed Councilmember Overton as the delegate and Councilmember Kramer and Vice Mayor Purdock as alternates. There are two resolutions for consideration at the annual conference this year. The information on the resolutions was included in the staff report. The first is a resolution calling on the state legislature to pass legislation in regards to distribution of the Bradley Burns 1% local sales tax. The second is a resolution calling on the governor and legislature to provide funding for the California Public Utilities Commission to inspect railroad lines for illegal dumping and homeless encampments along railroad right-of-ways. So it's appropriate for the council to discuss the proposed resolution and give direction to the conference delegates at this time.
Okay, any questions for staff on this item? Councilman Kramer? Councilman Claffey? Councilwoman Overton?
I just kind of want to express that we did have a division meeting here, and there are quite a few different bills that have, that are going to be coming up and may or may not go through legislation this month. So I actually have a video that I'm going to have, a PowerPoint that we did that I'm going to make sure you guys all have. One of this here is like, because the state was trying to like take basically our 1 cent sales tax and our so they're fighting a lot of different taxes on the online stuff too. So there's these taxes that they're trying to basically take away from the city is what they're trying to do, and not and they want to be the head person, and then we're not going to get any money. So so watch for a lot of these different bills to be coming up. But so these things are everything we talked about right now, a lot of them they're opposing right now because they need amendments and stuff. So so that's just wanted to kind of give you a breakdown of some of the things we did talk about at the division meeting. So
Mr. Mayor, if I could just follow up on that one particular issue, just to provide a little bit of information to the council. I mean, The sales tax issue is one that's really important, I think. I mean, at this point, online transactions actually is the largest sector of our sales tax receipts. A lot of folks think that we don't receive any sales tax from online transactions, but because of some court decisions and a variety of changes, it's actually the largest chunk that we get. And what they're trying to do is some of the larger municipalities that primarily have Amazon distribution centers within their jurisdiction, they're trying to change the way sales tax is calculated based on point of delivery to where it leaves the distribution center, which would take a ton of sales tax from small jurisdictions like us. And then, of course, enrich larger jurisdictions, which generally have a lot more tax revenue to operate with anyway. So.
Oh, it's okay for my wife to order on Amazon. Is that what you're saying? Okay, I got it.
At this point.
If you can't find it locally, yes, but it does online transactions in large part, we do receive sales tax benefit from.
All right, do you have any questions for staff?
No, sir.
Councilman Kramer, Councilman Claffey, Councilwoman Overton? That's it. All right. Do we need to give directions to the delegates from this point? I think it's very clear. Opposing the change in the way Amazon quote tax is being.
Yeah, I would agree. I would hate to see it go to a model where cities with distribution centers are overly compensated.
I think that our delegates know what their position is on all these items. I would believe so. All right.
I
Mayor,
think we need
Yes.
a vote.
I just want to be sure that there's a clear consensus. I understand there's a consensus for the Bradley Burns resolution. Is there also a consensus to support the railroad illegal dumping awareness resolution?
Well, since there are no railroads in the county, I don't really think that's an issue here.
Well, but we do support the leaks.
Still have
action
to,
on that.
yeah, you still have to tell us what you want, how you want to vote. So,
Well, we'll leave it up to the, I trust you to do this, so.
Well, is there any questions? or-
Well, any more questions? If not, open up the public hearing. Any questions from the public or comments or on Zoom, Madam Clerk?
There are no hands raised on Zoom, Mr. Mayor.
Go
I guess I
ahead.
have one question about the railroad piece. Would allocating funding to what they prescribe here take away from any critical services that impact Lake County or Clear Lake?
not that I know. They didn't seem to think that it was going to impact any of our rural areas. Our division did not think it was going to impact it.
Thank you.
So I believe our delegates have got the direction from the council.
Support.
Okay, very good. We'll go to city manager report.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So really a few things I wanted to report to the council, all related to the cash fire. So, I mean, we've said this a few times in some press briefings, but I think it's important to reiterate, our thanks to a variety of agencies that helped in the response and are continuing to assist the city with recovery efforts that of course will be ongoing for some time. Of course, Lake County Fire and Chief Cepeda, Cal Fire, Chief Duncan and Wink, and Clearlake PD and Public Works both, were very involved in the initial response and continue to be. Some of our officers, including the chief, were in some harrowing circumstances early part of the fire, and just glad that everyone is safe. We had one vehicle that was temporarily disabled, but will be back on the attack soon. So, of course, Lake County Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Martin, North Shore Chief Ciancio, almost all of our supervisors I've at least seen personally, either at the shelter or on the incident. Of course, Supervisor Sabatier, Simon, and Supervisor Pyska was at the incident last night, and I saw Supervisor Scott at the shelter first thing this morning. So appreciate all their support. Environmental health, Denise Pomeroy and Craig Weatherby jumping on and getting involved in helping us this morning. And of course, social services, Crystal Marketan and Tammy Wylinski and the Red Cross with their ongoing sheltering support. Carol Hutchinson, CAO, is helping with coordination and trying to identify short-term housing options for those that are going to be displaced that have lost their homes. Of course, on this incident, we weren't able to use the senior center as an evacuation shelter, but Kelseyville School District and now Twin Pine Casino have stepped up to help support our residents and those of Lower Lake. Other community agencies, of course, LARCA is already stepped up and reactivated the fire relief fund and will be taking donations to help in the recovery efforts. And then finally, Assemblymember Aguilar Curry and Senator McGuire, both their offices have been very active in trying to help lobby on the city's behalf for a lot of support. We have a call, I think I might have mentioned earlier, with them tomorrow to discuss some more specifics about what we'll be able to do. But at this point, without their support, there's unlikely to be any federal or state aid coming as a result of this incident. The initial damage assessment has been started. It's due. We have a series of things we have to submit to Cal OES by Wednesday of next week. I mentioned some of the overall numbers earlier on structures, 56 homes, as I mentioned, and then 81 outbuildings or accessory homes, and then 158 vehicles. There was a lot of vehicles related to a couple of problem properties out in the area, as I'm sure most of you are aware. So a few things to be aware of. Environmental health did an assessment, and there's no, at this time, industrial scale waste as part of this, but a lot of household hazardous waste, a lot of monitor heaters, propane tanks, other things, and then just the burning of the mobile homes and all the vehicles. There's a lot of ash that contains heavy metals. Because of the proximity to Cache Creek, we're certainly concerned about that getting into the watershed. And so, there are some drinking water sources nearby. The Cache Creek Mobile Home Park actually has its own water system, and it's in the process of being taken over by Canocti Water District, but that water system was destroyed. And so while there were only 1 or 2 homes destroyed in that mobile home park, there is no water there. But I talked to the general manager of Canocti Water this afternoon, and they are working on an emergency tie into their system to be able to provide water, at least a minimal amount for those folks that hopefully we'll be able to repopulate at some point soon. And then they'll be continuing to improve that connection as they move forward. There's, I mentioned kind of a problem property. There's what we would kind of call an unofficial wrecking yard in the area that has large number of vehicles with unknown pollutants on site. So we have requested a hazmat team from Cal OES, and we're told that that's going to be provided to us. We just don't know when they're going to be coming and helping us out. One of the things that we need to do is, in particular, because of some of the high winds, a lot of the ash has been blowing into the creek, and there's some concerns about that. They have some treatments that they'll be able to do once they make it on site, but our Public Works Department has used our water truck out there to keep a lot of that area damp near the creek to minimize additional ash blowing into the watershed. There's not really much water in Cache Creek right now, but of course, if the pollutants are in there, it's going to travel all the way down, and of course into Yellow County as well. Because of the large number of vehicles and the need to do some towing and things, as you know, we've done a lot of towing over the last several months, and our yard capacity is basically zero. And so just letting the council know that we're going to need to do an emergency contract related to that, to get some of that stuff cleared out. And we're looking at what type of additional enforcement activities we may need to do in the contaminated area. We're also concerned about, there were a few pockets of homeless folks that were out in that general vicinity. And we're concerned about the level of pollution and any folks moving back into that area, notwithstanding additional fire danger related to that activity. And so we'll be looking at what tools we may have available to deter that type of repopulation. I guess as far as recovery resources, we're trying to get more information, but our understanding at this point is that few of the property owners that had damage actually have property insurance. And so, that's going to be a problem for the recovery efforts. We're trying to do more research on that. But it does strengthen our chances of getting state resources, I believe, if that's actually the case. And so we'll be talking a lot about that as we move forward. So any information from evacuated folks at this time related to recovery and things is all handled through the shelter at Twin Pine Casino. At some point, we'll probably be shifting that information through the city and helping provide that. But there are a lot of folks out there that have offered any type of assistance. I just want the council to know that I've heard an outpouring of support from, as I'm sure all of you had too, but a lot of the contractors that the city works with regularly are offering donations and any other type of things that they can do to help. So very pleased with, how the community is already stepping in and help supporting again a disaster like this. And just, we're going to keep, because of the, it's a large disaster for us, but based on the thresholds for state and federal declarations, it's unlikely to meet those thresholds. This is going to make it more difficult for us to help in the recovery efforts, but we're going to fight any way we can to bring those resources down and help the folks that were impacted. And I guess the only other thing, we did have, I would just say that we're pleased, if you didn't hear the press conference earlier, that at this point, we're not aware of any loss of life, which was a big concern based on the rate of spread and the kind of the concentration, particularly in the 2 mobile home parks. So normally we wouldn't probably entertain any questions, but I think because of the situation of emergency in the city right now, I'd try to address any questions that the council may have.
Any questions? If not, we'll go to count. Do you have any questions? All right, we'll go to.
Is power restored in the area or restored?
I think some power was restored in Lower Lake, but yeah, it could be sometime. I don't know if Chief White has heard an assessment. There was a large amount of PG&E infrastructure that was damaged. So I haven't heard an ETA on what they're thinking.
Chief Cepeda said Friday or Saturday.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I just got an update. That's why I stepped out from Chief Cepeda. And they're looking at Dam Road potentially being reopened Sunday, and that relates to the infrastructure. So I don't want to speak for PG&E, but I know they're there's a lot of infrastructure repair to be done. So incrementally stuff will start to come back online. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to council reports. Councilman Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to repeat, I won't repeat them, but certainly I'm grateful to all of our first responders, all of our city staff that have been involved for the last 2 days in this tragedy. They did a great job, and sometimes it had great peril, as City Manager Flora indicated, with the one truck or one vehicle that barely got out. So I I think you did a great job. Again, it's a Lake County indication of Lake County strong. I toured the area today with Sheriff Martin and Supervisor Sabatier, and it's total devastation. It's going to take a lot of work. I hope that we do get all of that funding that we can from the state, because we're going to need it. While I was with Sheriff Martin, I brought up the topic of emergency evacuation shelter. Over the last 4 years, the community has come together. Many folks in the community have put up money themselves or put up labor. We've had several organizations that have provided funds and grants. One particular gentleman, Dave Rogers, has spent months working on the electrical system. More recently, Chief White has installed a communication system and brought us and made it basically a first class. I'm talking about an emergency evacuation shelter at the community center. Made it a first class emergency evacuation shelter. I asked, for that reason, I have advocated, and I believe that when we have emergencies in and around our city, folks like these that are absolutely stressed, more stressed than they've ever been in their lives, should be, they don't want to go to Kelseyville. They don't want to go to Twin Pines. They want to stay near where their homes maybe are or were. So I've advocated to get this emergency shelter opened. It's ready. It's a first-class shelter. It's the best in Lake County, in my opinion. I mentioned that to Sheriff White, or excuse me, Sheriff Martin today, and he told me that the reason that he was told that we were going to go to Kelseyville was that this shelter was only approved under COVID protocol for 13 people. I personally believe that's ludicrous. I've talked with Councilmember Overton in that regard, and I won't put words in your mouth, but I think you agree with that assessment that this shelter holds a lot more than that. We've had, 1,600 people were evacuated. 35 showed up last night at the shelter. And we had some varying numbers from the lady who was here at the press conference, but I was told there was only 12 people remaining there this morning before they moved them to Middletown. This shelter would hold all of those folks very comfortably. And we need to be advocating to the county, whoever we have to talk to get them to recognize our shelter and let us start using it. That's kind of my take on that particular thing. I had some other things, but they're not as important as that was. So, oh, I do have LARCA. That's as important. As Mayor Slotin stated in our press conference, and City Manager Flora just talked about, LARCA is open. I'm in the process of updating the website, but it's accepting donations. I've gotten a couple today already. I've got some pledges for other donations, and we're going to need them. So LARCA, LARCA 5130.org is the website address, and I would encourage, if people come to you and ask where can we give money, I would encourage you to recommend LARCA. 100% of what comes into LARCA, emergency relief funds, goes out. We don't pay bills with it. We don't have any paid staff. We're all volunteers. So that the money will be coming from the community. It'll stay in the community. Now that's all I have.
Okay, Councilman Claffey, anything to report on?
No, nothing to report. I just want to again thank everyone in the city and in the county who stepped up really big yesterday to help us out. It's going to be a long road forward, but I think we're all looking forward to fighting together. So thank you all.
Is Councilwoman Overton, any comments?
I have, well, I have a couple, but I have a question. Can I get, is there a way that we can get what the protocol is for COVID-19 for the shelter? And maybe get that to me so I can look to see what we can actually do? There,
Well, okay, I mean, yeah, if you want me to address, I mean, I can get that information from either, I'm not sure who makes the determination on that part of it, whether it's Red Cross or if it's social services, but just so the council knows, I mean, the decision on where to open a shelter. So the care and shelter team is ran by Carol Marketan of social services. So she usually coordinates with me when, there's an event in the city and, there's a determination made on number of expected evacuees. And because, there isn't the staffing available to operate 2 centers normally.
that's right.
And so that's why a decision has to be made. And, it's unfortunate sometimes to have to use something that's further away. But being prepared for the size of anticipated response is something that, we're trying to plan for. But I do want the council to know that it's not something that the county does in a vacuum. I mean, they coordinate closely with us in trying to make a determination on what is ultimately going to work best. I mean, I agree with Councilmember Kramer that the community center is set up probably better than any place else around. But unfortunately, there are some restrictions on the size sometimes. So
I think the main misconception, because this was not when Councilmember Kramer came and said that 13, that was not the first time with back when we were working on this and kind of trying to do all the stuff with the thing that came up before. And I said, that's just not true. So somewhere along the line, that 13 came into effect, and I think we need to figure out exactly what the space is so that we can give them the correct information, I think is what I'd like to make sure that they have, instead of always saying 13, because there's no way we can definitely hold more than 13, even with whatever protocol they have in. So I think we just need to figure out what their protocol is and actually figure out how many people can and get the right information to them so they actually know, even with the COVID protocol, that we have what space we really do have. I think there's just some misinformation on the space. So I'd like to just make sure that they have that. And it would be good for me to just know it. So, and I also reiterate the thanks for everybody did a wonderful job. I especially want to thank our city because with all the different things that have happened, I think we got the best information, the fastest this particular fire. I really appreciate that information coming to us fast because people tend to ask us questions and it's nice that we were able to answer them. I really appreciate that. I do think we keep learning every time with the fires. I hate to say that, but you guys did a really awesome job about getting us information. And I so appreciate that. I was able to give out correct information. And if I wasn't sure, I made the phone call and thank you for helping me with making sure I didn't give anything out incorrectly. I would suggest to people that the monetary donations are the most important right now. I have asked people ask me, they have furniture and stuff, but these people don't have homes yet. So it's really important that we try to help them. Right now, if you have things that you'd like to donate, please keep them. We don't really have a place for them, but the monetary donations and I do believe LARCA is our best and fastest way to get the money out. They were a great group for me to work with before. And, they helped the senior center when we were in desperate need when the COVID hit, and they were quick in action, and 100% of the money goes back to the people. So I really do think that it would be nice to just support our local organization who gives back to our community. So I suggest the monetary donations, and please hold on to everything else and just watch for Facebook. If people need something, they'll put it on Facebook. So so I really appreciate all the help though that people have come to me and offered. So I really do think that's wonderful. We always come together. And my last report was, as I said, I didn't get to go to the League of Cities division meeting. I sat in my car on Zoom or on the phone. So, but there is a lot of different things, you guys. As I said, I'm going to send you guys a video of all the different bills that are kind of being presented. Some may go through this year, so others will be held off till next year. I'm going to say the majority of them, the League of Cities opposes with the way they stand right now. They're looking for some amendments that they may make it to where they will support them. But at the time, right now, I'm going to say probably 95% of them they're opposing. with just one or two that they're going to support. So, but there was a presentation done and I asked for it to be sent. So I'm going to forward that on to you because they did send it to me. So, but it was very nice. And even though it was on, I kind of missed going and seeing everybody, but I really hope our conference is not that way, but I have a feeling it probably will be. So, so look forward to that, me emailing you tomorrow on that stuff. That's
Thank
it.
you, Councilwoman Overton. Vice Mayor Purdock.
Last week I attended the Lake Transit and Area Planning Commission. Not much to report there. So we also had our AVA meeting yesterday, just as the fire was breaking. Our chair, Moke Simon, stepped away so he could respond down here to be a part of that. With Supervisor Sabatier and the other members of the AVA group, we were able to get through the agenda. All I can report on that is we are looking for possible funding in November for vehicle abatement. But we don't know what those numbers are, and we had to table the audit. So that'll also be heard in our next AVA meeting, I believe, which is also in November. Again, I just want to echo my respect and gratitude for city staff and the members of the county that came and assisted yesterday in the fire. We were scrambling to try to relocate and evacuate facilities in Lower Lake and those we had housed there. So it was pretty chaotic, but again, thank you to city manager for the updated briefing notes. I did speak with Ms. Marketin about the shelter, and she again echoed the number of people limited there, but I think other consideration was the fast moving fire was headed toward Highway 53, which kind of shut off that evacuation from Lower Lake, but I think that was also a concern. And I know they also look at proximity of the event to the evacuation center. Again, not making opinions, just sharing what was shared with me. That concludes my report.
I toured the fire things last night when it was getting dark, and it reminded me of when my wife and I escaped on North Drive and Sulphur Drive, the sulfur fire. So it brought back some memories, and I feel for all the people that lost their places there. I had one comment really that quite a few people called me and asked, well, which zone am I in? And that's an issue that needs to be a little bit better addressed by whomever that does that, because people don't know. People just don't know what zone they're in and where is zone this? Well, I don't know. So it's hard to, a lot of people depend on their cell phone to look at all this stuff, and it takes forever to load that map on your cell phone. So it's a little bit, it needs some work. That's really the only comments I had. So. All right, if no other future agenda items, City Manager Flora, you have anything coming up right now?
I think we have a few things coming up, but nothing that I need to mention now, I don't believe.
Okay, we have any future agenda items from the council here? If not, adjourn to closed session.